All right, everybody, Robert Jerdee here, your guide to the world of pop culture, particularly comic books and video games. And today we are talking about the classic Masters of the Universe episode, The Dragon's Gift. Now, some of you may or may not know the Masters of the Universe. Quick recap. Prince Adam is really He-Man, and when he holds aloft his magical sword and says some magic words, he becomes He-Man. So it's like a Clark Kent, Superman kind of a deal. And in this particular episode, it starts out where we have the whole kingdom is hanging out, waiting on Prince Adam and his mighty steed Cringer, who's his battle cat, like a large, I don't know if he's a lion. I don't think he's a lion. Tiger and bear. And so they're waiting on Prince Adam to come up to the court because they're having a very special unveiling. A member of the community is bringing a gift to King Randor. And so Prince Adam and Cringer stumble in late, and hilarity ensues. Meanwhile, we see this man come in, this figure, and he walks in, and he's like, "Oh yes, King Randor." Of course, you know it's Skeletor right away, pretty much, because the dude is blue, but he's got this like funky mask on. But he's like, "King Randor, I have a gift for you," and he pulls out this sculpture. And the first thing I thought of is Hello, the Lionel Richie video, where she reveals the bust. It was the same thing. It's like a bust of King Randor. And he's like, "It's amazing. This is beautiful. It's my likeness." And, Man-at-Arms is watching. Man-at-Arms is the security detail. He's like the head of security. He's also Teela, who's the female protagonist. She's the captain of the guard, and she's like one of the Eternia's best fighters. And it's her dad. And he's, like I said, the chief of security for the kingdom. And he's watching this interaction go down, and he's like, "This is a little weird. That blue dude looks familiar," and he sees Skeletor's sword, and he's like, "That's Skeletor," and he runs to get between him. And as the king is about to touch the sculpture, Man-at-Arms gets in the way, and he touches it first. And automatically, he turns to crystal. And everybody freaks out, and Skeletor takes his mask off and the robe, and he's like, "I gotcha, suckers!" And him and Teela fight for a little bit. And a couple of surprising things happen in this. Well, not surprising, as in Teela, badass, is really giving Skeletor a run for his money. Like, she pulls the sword. She's mad, of course, because her dad's just been turned into crystal. So she pulls the sword. She's like, "Come here, Skeletor," and they start fighting. And she's like, beating him up. But then he pulls, and I know Skeletor is a magical creature. He's like a sorcerer. But man, he pulls out some stuff because the guards start coming in, and he's like, "Nope," and he like Jean Grey telekinesis gets him out of there, and then he creates a stone mountain, like a rock wall, to keep them from coming in as he's fighting with Teela. So He-Man turns into He-Man, and he breaks through the door, and Skeletor's like, "Oh well, this was meant for you, King Randor, but hey, Man-at-Arms, this is off my back now. I took care of him, so see you later." And he teleports away. Like, Skeletor's powers are huge. So, of course, Teela's really mad because her dad has just been turned into crystal. And they're like, we need to go do something. And so Skeletor's like, or not Skeletor. So He-Man is like, "Look, only one person can really fix this, and that's the sorceress." And so they go to the sorceress, they go to Castle Grayskull, where the sorceress lives. And she's like, "Sorry, there's nothing I can do. This magic is old and effective, and the only people who can fix this are ancient dragons." And Teela's like, "Okay, where are they?" And the sorceress is like, "I can't tell you." And Teela is getting mad, of course, because her dad's in crystal. And Teela's like, "What do you mean you can't help me? What do you mean you can't help me?" And she's freaking. And He-Man's like, "Calm down, let's talk this out." And the sorceress is like, "Look, I'm sorry. I wish I could help you. But we, like the people of Eternia, or I guess the magical people of Eternia, the sorceress or whoever, made a pact with the dragons a long time ago that we would never reveal their location, or else a great war would happen. So there's a truce now between the people of Eternia and dragons, and that truce has been going on for a long time, and we don't want to mess it up. So I can't help you. I'm sorry." And the sorceress is really cool. She's like, "I know you're mad. I can't help you, but I can lead you in the right direction. And so go check out the library. Go check out the library, and I'll watch Man-at-Arms while you guys go." So they're not having to drag this poor crystal man-at-arms everywhere. So they go to the library and they learn that ice trolls and dragons are friends, and that leads them to the lair of the dragon, and they battle some ice trolls. And there's actually a really cool moment where He-Man, they get to this ice area, right, the ice mountains, and they meet some trolls, and He-Man's like, "Trolls, do you speak the tongue of Eternia?" And the trolls are like, "Yeah, troll language is Eternia, dude. But yeah, I speak your language too. What do you want?" Like, they totally give him, check that privilege. But so they fight, because the trolls are like, "Yeah, we're not going to tell you where the dragon is." And so they fight, and eventually He-Man and Teela find their way to the dragon's lair. And the dragon is named Granomir. And he appears, and he's like, "All right, humans, what do you want?" And they're like, "Look, Man-at-Arms got turned into crystal, and we need your help." And he's like, "So why should I help you?" "I helped humans once, and they were gross. They're greedy, they're mean, they're ugly, and I don't like them. And you seem no different." He's like, "You're asking me for a favor, and you don't even have a gift. You're asking me for favors, you don't bring nothing. You don't, you come empty-handed to my home." And He-Man is like, "Okay, fair enough. What kind of gift would you like?" And the dragon's like, "Okay, all right. So there is one thing older than me, and that is Sky Tree. It's in the Forgotten Forest. It's right in the middle, and it's the oldest, tallest tree in all of Eternia. Cut that down for me. Bring it back here. I want to watch it burn in my fire pit. If you can do that for me, I'll think about reversing the spell on Man-at-Arms." And they're like, "Well, why don't we just fight you instead?" And the dragon's like, "Well, you could." And he instantly locks him up. And he's like, "Or I could just straight up send you to the realm of demons, because I'm all powerful. So it's up to you." And He-Man's like, "Okay, all right, fair enough. Send us there. Send us to the Forgotten Forest, and we'll get this tree for you as a deal." And Granomir's like, "All right, boom." And they're there. And so they're in the Forgotten Forest. He-Man and Teela are looking around, and they see a tree pecan. This tree pecan appears. And he's like, "How can I help you guys?" And He-Man's like, "Yes, we're looking for Sky Tree." And the tree pecan is like, "Well, look up." And you look up, and it's like this majestic, beautiful tree that ascends into the heavens. It's like clouds everywhere. It's all green. And He-Man's like, "Oh, thank you." And the tree pecan's like, "What do you want it for? Or why are you asking?" And he's like, "You don't want to know." And they sprint off. And the tree pecan's like, "What? Wait." And so there's this chase, and the tree pecan conjures wolves, and these wolves and there's this fight scene and everything. And He-Man and Teela are freezing the wolves, and they're stopping the tree pecan, and the tree pecan's pulling up vines to stop them. Then all of a sudden, because they're right by Sky Tree, and all of a sudden this face is like, "What do you want?" And the Sky Tree has a face, and he's like, "What do you want with me?" And He-Man's like, "Look, man, I'm sorry, but we made a deal with Granomir to chop you down in exchange for Man-at-Arms being uncrystallized." And the tree's like, "Granomir," he's like, "that old man," he's like, "he's still jealous of me. He wants me so bad. He sent you to chop me down." And Teela's like, "Yes, but we need you to help me with my father." And he's like, "Well, who is your father again?" And he's like, "Man-at-Arms." And he's like, "Man-at-Arms, I know that name." He's like, not eons, but long, long time ago, a Man-at-Arms helped the Forgotten Forest against the Witches of Fire. And I was like, that sounds like I want to see that episode. And he was like, "This Man-at-Arms protected the trees in the forest during that, and we all owe Man-at-Arms our lives. So, if you must, chop me down." And the tree pecan is crying, and he's like, no, you can't let him chop you down." And this tree goes into this beautiful monologue, and he's like, "I have stood from the beginning of time, and everything green and good goes through me, and I am life flows through this tree, but even when I'm gone, if there's a single tree or a leaf that is around, then my spirit remains. So He-Man, lift up your sword and chop me down." And the leprechaun is crying, and it's just this sad moment, and He-Man's like, "I can't do it." And Teela's like, what do you mean? What do you mean you can't do it? What about Dad? And he's like, I can't do it. I can't chop this tree down. He's like, if your dad were here, he would say the same thing. This is wrong. And one life for another is wrong. And he's like, I can't do it. And Teela's like, you're right. You're right. We can't do this. And so, of course, the tree pecan is like, yes. And there's like this, everyone's happy. And Sky Tree is like, thank you. Thank you for not killing me. And I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry that we couldn't save your dad. And so they go back to Granomir, the dragon, and he's like, where's my tree? Where's my tree? I need to burn it up in my fire pit. And He-Man and Teela are like, look, we couldn't do it. We couldn't chop him down. Sky Tree or any tree matters, and we can't do it. We can't trade one life for another. And he's like, so we had a bargain. He-Man's like, we had a bargain. And if you have to send us to the realm of demons, then go ahead, because you're right. We didn't fulfill our side of the bargain. And the dragon is like, okay. Courageous, compassionate, and you're honoring the deal, and you're accepting your fate or the comeuppance or responsibilities of the deal. You're accepting your fate. And he's like, you've shown courage, and maybe all humans aren't garbage. Maybe. So in this book, you'll be able to help your dad. And that's it. We're done. And Teela and He-Man, of course, are like, oh my God, thank you so much. Thank you so much. How can we repay you? What can I get? And he's like, you can repay me by getting out of here. Because I'm going to go to sleep now, and you guys have been bugging me all day. So scram. It's a great ending. And so the wrap-up is, of course, Man-at-Arms is fine now, and Teela goes into like a, G.I. Joe would do the, learning half the battle, G.I. Joe, and this is like the little PSA at the end, and it's like, trees are important in the environment and look after it. It was a really sweet Earth Day. It was a great Earth Day episode. And man, He-Man is so great, And I was really worried actually watching this episode because I'm like, He-Man, you're not going to chop down this tree, are you? Like, you can't chop down this tree. But he didn't. He made the right decision. And it was a really sweet, good episode. And in fact, God, when He-Man came out, I was like 8 years old, 6, 7 years old. So I don't think I ever saw this episode, but there is actually I guess originally they had meant for a Granomir action figure to sell toys. And only just recently, maybe within the last 10 years, they put one out. And it's a really cool action figure, and watching the video about the action figure is what prompted me to watch this particular episode. And I'm glad I did. So definitely a fun, environmentally friendly He-Man episode where he does the right thing. And those are always good things to watch. Well, I hope you enjoyed this little video. And, I've got more coming out. I'm working on a comic book one. Comic books are my jam. And I haven't done a comic book video yet. I'm trying to find the right one. And it's hard. It's hard. But, I'll have many of these coming out in the future. So thank you so much for your support. Thank you for the comments and the likes. And the shares, feel free to comment, like, and subscribe and share some more if you like what you're watching. Thank you again so much. Robert Jerdee here. Have a great evening and take care.